onto the A2, onto the trunk, or boot, or whatever you want to call it. All right, this is what we're tasked with doing. We're tasked with having a few things in there to make it work. Well, what do we have? First thing, we have a fuel tank. Got to hold the fuel somewhere. Second thing, we have a battery box. It's going to have to be sealed. That's another component we have to put in there. We have to have fuel pumps in here. We also have to have a jack. This right here is a quick lift jack. It's otherwise known as a Beetle jack or a Bilstein jack. I remember Bruno always telling me, the guy who I crewed for, he always said the high lift or the quick lift jacks were just a Beetle jack with an extended tube. And I believe them in this. Actually, if you take a look at it, it's pretty much it. So I'm going to have that in there. What I also have to have is a spare tire. As you saw before, these are the 390 TRX rims that I had on the car because they look pretty wild. And I believe they're from, like, 1983 World Rally Championship was when they had them. They're huge lips. But I got to do worst case scenarios. What happens if I use a 15-inch tire with a rally tire on it? Here's a rally tire. This is the standard tire that I would generally use. Believe it's a 1765, which is 17 centimeters wide, 65 centimeters tall. This is on an OZ magnesium rim that I have on my Escort Cosworth that I was running in rally back from 2002 to 2007. I'm going to be fitting this because it's probably about an inch or 2.5 centimeters taller than that tire. So I'm going to use worst case scenario. Well, we're trying to fit 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to show you some stuff where I'm going to cut out and how I'm going to do it, and hopefully this will work. So let's give it a shot. As my mic ran out, we're going to cut it right along here. We're going to slice this right there, right here, and right here, because we're not going to use any of that rusted area. Slice it, and just push it down, and I'll trim it up in a little bit. And that's pretty much, no, let me stop being lazy and I can just do it. We now have a hole. Let's see if we can fit the fuel tank. Well, it looks like we still have to clearance the shock towers. I believe that's going to have to be done with a persuasion device. Relatively big persuasion device because it's kind of thick metal. Let me see, let me go grab one. I'm going to give it a couple of whacks and see if it's, see if it'll slide in. Let's see if the tire fits. Doesn't look like it's going to fit because I got to change of plans. Let's see if that sucker will fit in there. Spare tire fits in barely. If I'm going to try and push this back a little bit more, the tank, I have to drop it down a little bit because the filler is too high. I don't want to cut into this support right here, and I want to mount the filler right there, and I don't want anything trapped inside the tubes going into it. That's not too big a problem. Dropping this thing probably an inch shouldn't be that bad. I mean, shouldn't be. Who knows? I have virtually no room there. If I can notch out just a little bit and plate it inside so I can move the fuel cell back maybe, half an inch or 10, 15 millimeters, I think it'll work out much better because this tire is flat and it fits in there. So if it's full, it's probably going to gain another centimeter. Let's get on to the next thing. Yep, needs to go back a little bit more. The cutting never stops. Goes right in, and it's loose. All right, fuel tank is in. The filler neck is about maybe a couple millimeters too high from a straight shot. I'm accepting that. I can always do a little bit more. I think it's going to work. The next thing is we got to fix the pan that we cut and have a place for the fuel pump, so I'll show you that. Let's get this thing out of here and I'll show you what I got. All right, have the fuel tank out. What do we have to do? We have to make room for the fuel pumps. Also, we have to cut out the rust. There is so much rust in the back of this car, rust-free Vermont car, that, I have to use as much metal as I can, and I want to do it as least amount of time as possible. As in, if something's already done for me, one step better, I can just mold and piece it in. And this is pretty much what we're going to do. Let me show you all the rust, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to use to do all this stuff. This is what I'm using for the repair panels inside here. We need, whoop, this is all nice and moving around. This is basically a steel box. That's all it is. If you had a sheet metal brake, you could bend it up. Most people do not have a sheet metal brake. So if you're in this position where you're building one of these kit cars and you don't have a sheet metal brake and you want a nicely formed box that's really strong, well, this is an old toolbox drawer. The only thing I have to do is I have to cut the handles off and cut the sliders off, and I'll probably bend up this to actually fit inside here. Now, this was out in the pile, and this is like after a couple of minutes, or not even that, just about a minute's worth of using a regular wire brush to get the rust off. This is what it looked like, and you're going to sit there and say, oh, that's awful. You're not going to use something like that. Of course I'm going to use something like that. You have to remember, at the end of the day, this is still just a piece of shit kit car, and it's for my enjoyment. But this metal is actually better than most of the metal you'll probably get, at least of the Chinese crap that you fucking have out there. So I have to take off, the sliders here, take off this handle, and use this. And plus I got another one, same condition, rusty, shitty. That way I can just, I'm going to piece in the boxes right here, make what I need to make. So I need to have a step down for the actual bottom of the, or I'd say the bottom rung of that fuel tank, and then I'm going to have another step down, which will give me hopefully enough room over with another drawer so I can start attaching the fenders. I need to do a couple things with this stuff, and especially over there where the battery box is going to be, I have other drawers that I'm going to use, just going to cut up and just put in and tack them in. I'm not going to fully weld it yet. I got to, once I clean them all up with the wire brush, I'm going to put them all in, tack them, and then I'm going to use a phosphoric acid to etch them. What it does is basically takes away the rust. It's in all simple terms. Actually, I've used it plenty of times. It actually works really good. A friend of mine, Tom, suggested it because he owned a body shop for years, and it's what he always used, so I'm using it. Now let's get on to cutting up some of these toolboxes and give it a quick wipe out with the wire brush, and we'll just tack them in so we can at least start getting this together to the point where we can start fitting the rear bumper, because that's a lot of stuff that I've been also thinking about. So let's get it right onto here and let's start making something work inside here. Okay, we now have this step down right here. This takes care of the small reservoir that you have at the bottom of the fuel tank, which is going to come out here, and the line is going to come out here. Next thing is, I was going to use that toolbox to go out and to give it even more of a step down. But what I need to do is, I need to actually take care of, there's a whole bunch of rust over here. It's already welded onto this portion of the body, and I want to take care of all this rust. So what I did do is I got another toolbox drawer, but this is out of an old van that I had. Isn't it amazing how much of a friggin' hillbilly recycler I am? It goes, if I can cut this, actually, I don't know if you can see it right here, but what it does is it goes right to the very end, and I get to cut out all the rust. All I do is make one cut over here, actually just one cut down here and one cut right here, and that's it. This thing should drop out, and I should be able to put this pan, it'll attach to the bottom of this, it'll drop down that far, and it'll be a, there'll be a cover maybe or something. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but then I can get rid of all of this rust and have this as my good metal. Plus, there's some extra slats over here. If I can do it, I'm going to run it all the way up to the fender so it'll attach to the fender. Let's see if it'll work. Let's first cut out that stuff. And as you can see, cutting the other one, I mangled up my finger. So I'm going to get all my gloves. So that's just a helpful safety tip. I'll get my welder and I'll start tacking some of this stuff in, just for the heck of it, and I can get this all squared away. Then I can cut that, tack it to this, down here, trim that, and be all done. Lovely rust. Ha! Mint! See, what I want to do is have, this is going to be the first box in, or first toolbox drawer in. I want to cut it here because I want it to basically rest on this lip and rest right back here, and I'll trim it further down when I need to trim it firmer down. But I need to save as much metal as I can, because I don't want to add metal, I just want to cut away, and that is pretty much the whole case here. So let me just cut this away. We'll start putting it down, and then cutting away what's around here, and keeping the good metal here, or good metal on the chassis, and replacing it with this, semi-rust, good enough material that we have here. Let me just zip that off, and I will get to work. One cut takes care of the hinge also. There, that's a really small tack, because, and I got a really small tack there. Nothing was cleaned. I just didn't want to, I just wanted this thing to be relatively steady. That way I can figure out how the bottom one's going to work. So let's get the bottom one on and see where I'm going to cut that. Now that we have the height of the first toolbox drawer in, and it's, the bottom of the floor of the actual trunk, or boot, whatever you want to call it. What we have to do next is to get the second toolbox set for position and height and just tack it in. We're not going to weld it. We're tacking it so we can easily cut them off if we mess up or do something like that if we want to try something different. Let's put this, see what I have here. This is the van toolbox, or it was in a van shelving system. Just, Yeah, still, it's crappy, but I mean, it'll clean up fine. This is the worst side right here, so this is what's going to go underneath the original, or not the original, the initial toolbox tool tray. And this is what we're going to cut off, but we're not really sure how we're going to do that. What we have to do is, I brought my jack over, handy dandy Harbor Freight, you know, Chinese piece of crap, but it works really well. And what we have to do is to get this to the position where the fender is going to be. Now, thing is, I don't want this lower than the actual fender because I don't want you to see it. That's the big thing. I just don't want you to see it. I don't want it to be covered. But you also have to take the fender, you know, or the rear quarter and bring it in. So that box is not further or pushing the actual rear quarter out. You can have it close to touching, but you can't have it actually sitting, you know, pushing the actual quarter out, because this is what we're going to attach to. And now we need very little metal to actually put it in. Now, what I'm going to do next, see, I want it up like that. What I got here now is this toolbox is here, or this tool tray is here, this tool tray is here. All I'm going to do is weld it, or I'm not even weld it, just going to tack it. Even I'm not even going to clean it because I want this to be able to break off. And probably 1, 2, yeah, I could tack it down here where it should be fine. Let me clean up, and that, yeah, that should give enough drop so I'll get the filter. So what I want, yes, that's, I'm going crazy. So if that's there, I want to get my marker. Cut that off. Now we have a place where we can bend it up and attach it to the bottom of the other drawer. Let's, I'm just going to clean a little bit of this off, a little bit of that off, and just see if I could get barely just tacked in. That's all I wanted to do. Because actually I want to cut out the other side. After I cut out the other side and tack something in, we're going to call it for this episode. Oh boy. What do I do? What do I do? Yeah, that's it. So, all right, let's get back to doing a little bit of welding up, or a little bit of tacking in. There, it's shittily tacked until I can clean it all up. But hopefully this is going to be the final iteration. But that's the reason why we just tacked it in there. Let's get on to the other side. Let's move on to the right side of the car. The big, huge, gaping rust hole here. This is where the battery's going to be. We have another van shelf right there. You know, not the greatest condition, but whatever. Let's put this over. I want to bring this out like that. So, figure out how far over I'm going to do. Looks like I'm going to have to cut this out so I can keep this extended out like this. So I'll cut right here, and let's, we'll just do that up. So we can just set where we're going to put this, this tray. Isn't that lovely? That's some nice New England rust stuff. All right. And like before, make sure your quarter is in. I only want to go so far because I'm going to build out. Now, we also have rust holes here and here, and also here. Well, it looks like someone drilled and put a patch in there. What I'm thinking is, if this is only going to go this far, I can actually cut out where this rust is and bring this up inside of it. Let's grab the pin. See, all I really need is how wide it is, because I'm just going to cut straight down where this rust is. I got more than enough. It'll go over to here. So if I start right there, I can just cut it all the way down and just get rid of all that rust. Let's get the jack. Here's the toolbox tray initially set. The main thing that I am going to be doing is I want this edge, which is not too far down, to be equal here. So if I'm going to do that, I got to cut right here and right down here to allow this edge to come up to mate to this. This way, this side will go down, and I can fold up the metal that's underneath here to actually meet this section, and then, you know, grind it down and so forth. Then I can take all this metal up here, bring it up, take this all out, you know, and weld it down through here. But now I just have to do the cuts that I need so it'll rise up and be relatively equal. Grind a little bit, weld it, and call it for that episode. Now it's time to give it a tack. I'm setting everything. This whole thing is going to be level with the way this is. So all I need to do is tack it on one side. I'm not going to tack it on this side yet, because just in case I need to take it apart. That's the only reason why. But if I put a good tack right here, it's not going anywhere, and I can move it around and manipulate it. This, as long as this thing's above here, and this thing is right on the edge. So let me just give that a little bit of a weld. Let's recap. There we go. Cut out a bunch of metal, fitted some fenders, cut some fiberglass. Just the standard hillbilly stuff of what we do up here in New Hampshire. Really, you know? I have to laugh. You know, but whatever. All right. Well, we fitted the fenders. We actually figured out what we're supposed to do or what I was going to use to fit the battery box and where to put the fuel pumps. We fit the fuel tank. To run over, we cut all this stuff out. We cut that. I had to cut the bar off that was crossed and pound in a little bit into the strut towers. But other than that, fuel cell fits in. Next big thing on our agenda is we have to fit the bumper and make it work with the fenders the way they are. Then, fitting the bumper is going to be kind of interesting because we have to do a tow hook. We have to do a whole bunch of other things to make it work and make it structurally sound. That's the big thing. And just have to keep going, you know. And I do consider the back part of this car really difficult. It's the front, you can fudge a lot, and it's fairly simple to do. But this requires an awful lot of thinking of what I have around. I mean, any asshole could spend $10,000 to do it, you know? Just here, go build this, go build that, get that new this, get that new that, you know? You know, this is not what you're here for. You're here to see some hillbilly build something out of like recycled bits and pieces from toolboxes and old car parts and all this other stuff. But next time, we have to fit the rear bumper, and then we'll start prettying this stuff up probably after that. This is going to be the hardest section to do because we also have to fit the tow hook inside there and make it structurally sound. So, like, when I back into a woods, you know, not that I intentionally back into woods, it's like rodent talent running out at the same time. But other than that, you know, I'll stop babbling, and thank you very much for showing up, and I really appreciate it. Remember, you can do it. I'm nothing special. I'm just a hillbilly recycler that's just doing some cool shit with some cars. That's it. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you hanging out, and hey, have a good one. Thank you.